Okay, this is a review for Assessment 11, and this is just a general review on the figures that we've been discussing. So, the first figure we have is a rectangle. And we know that on a rectangle, you have your length, which is the longest side, by your width. And the formula to find the area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, so the area for a rectangle is your length times your width. Area equals length times width. And normally that's going to be shown in square something, square feet, square inches, square something. Here, you should recognize this shape as a what? I'm not even going to say it yet. We have two sets of a type of line and another pair of a type of lines that will never touch, and we call those parallel lines. So these sides are parallel and these sides are parallel, and we know that these two lines will never connect or never touch each other, and neither will these. So we have two sets of parallel lines, and this would be called a parallelogram. And the formula to find the area of a parallelogram is very simple. The area equals base times height. Now, you don't actually see a height here, but I will tell you, let's just change this up a bit and say that I told you this length right here was 8, and that this line right here is actually 7. That this base right here is 10. Well, I know what the base is. The base is going to be 10. But which one is my height? Is my height 8 or is my height 7? Well, if I notice, here are my two bases, the 10, and this actually is 10 as well because these are my two bases, and they are the same. And I know that the height separates the two bases, and the height, or the number that we use for the height, is going to be a straight line between the bases that forms a 90-degree angle. So my height will actually be 7 and not 8. And you will see this on the assessment to throw you off, but it's going to be the 7. So I know that I need to do 10 times 7, and so my area would be 70. Okay, moving on. This shape is actually a trapezoid, and you're going to have two different bases. Let's say this base is 8, and this base is 15. And let's give it a height. And let's just say this height is 10. Who remembers the area to the formula, the formula for the area of a trapezoid? Well, the area is going to be 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. I actually prefer to, and some of you students may get confused with this 1/2 part. We know that we can add the base 1 and the base 2 together, multiply the height, and then multiply everything times 1/2, or we can simply divide by 2. So let me show you what it looks like. We're going to take base 1, we'll say is 15, plus base 2, which is 8, and 15 plus 8 is 23, times the height, and the height is 10. So 23 times 10 is 230. Now I can't forget to divide by 2. And when I do that, my area equals 115. Just to recap, your base 1 plus your base 2 times the height. B1 plus B2 times the height, and then divide by 2. That's how I got 15 plus 8 is 23, times 10 is 230, Then I took my 230 divided by 2, and that's how I got area of 115. And actually, I should have marked these with feet or some type of measurement. And the last one we have is a rectangular prism. And notice that all of the other shapes, and I'll include the rectangle on this one, all of these shapes are two-dimensional. They just have lengths and widths, or base and a height. But this is a three-dimensional figure. And a three-dimensional figure is going to be treated a little differently. And I tried to show you with the colors here that on one side of the shape you have, on your left and right, I did them in red. Your top and bottom I did in green. And your front side and your back side I did in blue. And we know that to find, just like find the area of a rectangle is length times width, or area equals length times width. It's going to be the same thing here, except we're going to multiply it by 2. So the area is really, and I kind of write this two different ways. Area equals 2 times the length times the width, plus 2 times the length times the height, plus 2 times the width plus the height. Now, a number of you already know that I write it a little bit differently in the class. I write it like this: 2 times length times width, and that will give you something. Then I say 2 times your length times your height, and then 2 times your width times your height. Oops. Times your height. And then you would add all of these together, and this would be the actual area. So let me give you some numbers we can plug in here. Let's just say that we know our length is 10. Let's just say that we know that our height is 5 and our width is 4. Okay? Let's plug them in. The length we said is 10. The width is 4. 10 times 4 is 40, times 2 is 80. The length here, we already knew was 10. The height, we said is 5, right here. So 10 times 5 is 50, times 2 is 100. And the width, we said is 4. And the height, we said is 5. 5 times 4 is 20, times 2 is 40. And when I add them all together, I get 80 and 40 is 110. I'm sorry, 120 plus the 100 is 220. So that's how we find the area of a rectangular prism. Here's how we find the area of a trapezoid. Here's how we find the area of a parallelogram, base times height. And for the rectangle, area equals length times width.